Hello everyone, welcome to Psychology of Adolescence. Today's lesson is about achievement. The famous psychologist Sigmund Freud, he says that to have a happy life, we need to learn two things. One is love and the other is work. So for the psychology of adolescence, so far we talked about the love. The meaning of the love is not, I'm talking about the sexual love, it's a more expanded meaning of love is a relationship. So we think about the family issues and also peer and friends and a romantic relationship so far. And that is about the relationship, which is a love relationship. So it's very important to have a happy life. You need to know how to love and you need to know that how to be loved by other people. But today is a little bit different. It's a work. And work meaning that to have a happy life, you need to develop your the potential to fulfill all the maximum of your capability. So that is achievement and the work and the career issues covered by the chapter 11. And look at the picture, the rock climber. And what do you think about them? And maybe some students feel that, oh, they are crazy. Why they are doing that? That is too dangerous and there's no point. So some people can never understand why they are doing it. Or some students maybe feel that, oh, that's so fun. So and that's why they are doing it, because they're enjoying the process. Maybe some people, they feel that, oh, maybe there is a competition. There is a very big prize is waiting for them, and that's why they take a risk to do these very dangerous things. So there is a different kinds of the reasons for the people to do work or to study or to get a job. And while you are thinking of these issues, I hope that you think of yourself and what's the reason for you to study and go to college and just stand on the computer to take this the lecture. So the broad the outline for this the chapter is achievement. That is the first topic. And second topic is about work and career development. And I'm going to talk about career development is the next week. There is too much contents we have to cover. So this week we are going to think about achievement and work. Start achievement, and the first slide shows why the adolescents think about achievement. And when we think of the criteria of achievement, the adolescents and adult, we talk about that to be more responsible financially and emotionally, to be considered as an adult. That is a very important area. So achievement meaning that you have to be ready to be responsible to supporting yourself financially, and you need to have your own job, and in that way you can support yourself, and not necessarily just making salary, but you need to have a more meaningful life to do something you can do better than somebody else, or this the area you can have lots of other talent. So achievement, that is one of the major tasks of the adolescents have to learn and to be ready to live outside without other person's the help or the support of the financially or emotionally. So achievement takes a very central role in development during the adolescence, and also work becomes a major aspect of the life. Before you just do as a hobby, but it's more serious issues for the adolescents. And careers play an increasing role during the adolescence, and we are going to think about the career issues next week. When you think of the achievement motivation process, that is a major concept related to the achievement. And intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation, that is a very classical classification of the motivation to have an answer that why people do that. And an intrinsic motivation is internal factors such as self-determination, curiosity, and challenge and effort. For example, you play the piano not just to make money or because your mom's pressure, or you wanted to have a good grade, but If you just enjoy the process of practicing the playing piano, that is intrinsic motivation. You do something. On the contrary, the extrinsic motivation is external incentive, such as reward, or you want to avoid the punishment from other people's, and that's why you do study. Then when you can say that you have extreme motivation. So as you expect that intrinsic motivation get lots of benefit, but sometimes we have to do something because of the extrinsic motivation. And some people start something based on the extreme motivation, but while they are doing it, they find it's really fun. And there's lots of enjoyment. Then the motivation changes into the intrinsic motivation. This graph shows that how the people participated in or involved in the certain task shows that this criteria is a perceived level of their own skills. So this level, feel that I'm very low level of skills I have, and this is high level. And this criteria shows that perceived the level of challenge, how difficult I feel for this certain the task. If you have a low level of skills and you feel that that's too easy, then apathy. So bothersome, oh, I don't have any interest, whatever, I don't care. That's kind of attitude, that's apathy. But if you feel that that's very difficult for you and you feel that you are not ready to deal with because you have low levels of skills, then you have anxiety. And that's why some people feel that if you don't study too much to ready for the test, which is very difficult, then you have a test anxiety. And this is if you feel that you have a high level of skills, but the task is too easy, then you feel that, oh, I don't have to prepare, that's too easy. And so I don't want to study or prepare and make any effort to succeed in, because that's no challenge for me, that is bothersome. And this is a very ideal state of achievement, which we call the flow. Csikszentmihalyi, he is a psychologist, a social psychologist. He suggests this particular concept to explain that the people have a high level of skills and they enjoy the process to do very challenging tasks. That is a flow state. So they are very much preoccupied of doing things, and they forget about other things. Even sometimes they forget that they miss the meals. So sometimes the flow can be in not that the positive things like addicted in the internet games. Adolescents, they are in the flow state. And sometimes they just sitting at a computer doing the internet games, and they forget about the meals, and they don't feel that any hunger at all. So that's a very kind of very involved this situation. And also in the positively, if you really like reading books or playing Lego for the young people, they are flow in a situation and they wanted to do more challenging work, and that's really fun for them. So that is a flow the state. So self-determination theory, that is more related to the intrinsic motivation. But in these days, self-determination theory, they realized that there are different types of intrinsic motivation. It's not just only one. So for example, if you study, not just for fun, but if you see that your mother really pleased with the high GPA, and if you choose to please your mother, not just because you like her compliment as a reward or you are afraid of getting punishment from your mother, but if you choose, so self-determined to please your mother to get the good GPA, and that's why you study hard, then we can call that as different types of intrinsic motivation. So there are different types of motivation, intrinsic motivation people begin to suggest. And the self-determination, the pupils say that just because of their own will, and the types can be different. And that has the impact on the personal choice. That is also related to the motivation theory. And another concept is interest. It's not just exactly same concept with intrinsic motivation is very similar. I have interested in something and that's why I'm doing it. So people have begin to study using the concept of interest. That's also another aspect of the motivation. And attribution, that is another the concept to understand achievement, why the people doing it. Attribution, by definition, is the underlying causes of their own performance and behavior. For example, if you failed in the math test, and to understand why I performed so badly in that test, then you assume that there's some underlying causes of your failure. Some people maybe I failed in the test because I'm not that capable people in a math. Or some people say that the teachers give me a too difficult test because the level of difficulty of the test, that is the cause. Or some people feel that, oh, I don't have good luck to have a good GPA and that's why I failed in the math test. So different way the people attribute their failure or their success into the certain causes, that is attribution. So that is a perceived causes, not necessarily that is actual cause. So best strategies to achieve in a more successful level, we need to help the adolescents to attribute their poor performance on changeable internal factors. For example, if you attribute your the failure into external factor, like your teacher's fault or teacher's incapability to teach effectively, then actually you cannot control over your GPA. So internal factor is more better way for you to attribute for your failure. But also, even though there is internal factor, some factors you cannot change it, such as the IQ. If you attribute the poor performance on the test, attribute to your low IQ, then probably you get easily depressed because you cannot change your IQ. So it's not really recommendable. But if you attribute your low performance of the test into your lack of effort, that is changeable. It's an internal factor. So you can maybe do more effort for the next test. So you can be more motivated to study. You can have more hope for that. So this is the best strategies. So instead of external factors, more internal. And another criteria, it's rather the fixed factor, more changeable factor. It's more flexible idea. So that's the best strategies using the attribution theory to help the adolescents achieve better. And another, the concept I wanted to explain is the mastery orientation, we call that. So some people do something, to master something. There are 3 different types of orientation we can say. So first, mastery orientation, and second, helpless orientation, performance orientation, different types. When I say that orientation is the basic attitude, in a different words I can say. So even before starting certain task, you have a certain orientation. So start with the first orientation, master orientation. These people instruct themselves to pay attention to the task. And they remember that the strategies, they have very good performance before. So they're trying to remember how can I succeed in a previous project and trying to apply those their successful experiences before into the current the project, because they are very highly motivated and they are interested in mastering things. That's very important things. So they the feeling very excited, and also they are feeling very challenged by the difficult task rather than being threatened by them. So they enjoy the things and more focus on the master things. So we say that it's a task-oriented. This is, I can compare task-oriented into the self-oriented or self-consciousness. So some people have the project, some people think of just a task, but other people can think of how can I do this, the project well or not. So they just indulge into their own performance level. So these mastery-oriented people, since they are more focused on task rather than their self-consciousness, their fulfillment and their performance level can be very good. And also during the process, they enjoy the process. So this is a very ideal type of orientation to do something. Second orientation is very different from mastery orientation. Helpless orientation. These people, even before start any kind of the project, they feel that I'm not going to do that, and I cannot do that, and helpless and powerless. That's their approach to the task. So even though their actual level of performance is really good, but they feeling they're very exhausted and burned out very easily, and they feel they're very tired very easily because they are stressed out. Because they feel that they are helpless and no motivation and no energy to perform the things. So helpless orientation, sometimes we say that learned helplessness, meaning that these people accumulate their orientation. That is learned. It's not actually helplessness, it's a given things. So if you don't change your orientation, those helpless orientation, it's accumulated and you can have a learned helplessness. That's a really fatal, the barrier to perform successful level. And third orientation is performance orientation. They appear to be very similar with the mastery orientation peoples. But performance orientation people this is a very different attitude. These people are very competitive and they have rivalry issues, and that's very important to them. So winning is what matters for them. Rather than task orientation, they focus is more winning things, so competition and rivalry things. So it's even though their performance is really good, their level of stress can be really high. But the research shows that there are many benefits of combined mastery orientation with a performance orientation. It can be a really good match because mastery orientation people is more internal oriented people, but performance orientation people is more external oriented people, but the performance level is really good. So if you combine this orientation together, then your satisfaction is high. Also, the level of your performance is really good. So that is a good strategy. And the concept related to the achievement is a self-efficacy. And you know that the Bandura, he is a social psychologist and he developed the idea self-efficacy. And actually his theory is a the cognitive theory to understand the people's behavior. Self-efficacy is our cognitive belief that I can master a situation and produce favorable outcomes. So even before you perform something, you have a certain level of self-efficacy. So how do you think that you are going to do well in this task? That is sometimes not necessarily related to the actual level of your performance. So if you have a high level of self-efficacy and if you trust in your level of the capability, that's a really good plus to do well in that actual world. So that is a critical factor in achievement, that those belief system, and has a much common in with a mastery motivation. So somebody have a mastery motivation, probably they have a high level of self-efficacy. They trust in their own capability. And another thing is that there's a gender differences. After the adolescence, the female adolescents, they shows a significantly lower level of self-efficacy compared to boys, male adolescents. And so girls feel that I'm not good enough and I cannot do well, even though their actual performance is really good. It's, I can take a whole day to explain why those are gender differences. Think of that our gender topics in chapter 5, and they explain that why after adolescence the females are more vulnerable with the poor performance, and they have a negative belief in their own capability, even though that's not true. But research shows that self-efficacy in general, or academic self-efficacy, career-determined the self-efficacy, different areas of the self-efficacy in general, on average, the females adolescents shows the lower level than the male adolescents. Another thing is expectation. Probably expectation a little bit similar with self-efficacy. Expectation is that based on your self-efficacy, if you have the positive self-efficacy, then probably you set up the high expectation on the achievement. So that is very important thing. If you have a high expectation, probably it's easier for you to make an effort. All right? And another thing is that value is a different concept of from the expectation. So if you believe that this is very valuable things, a valuable task, and if you can have some meaning to have a success this particular job or a particular task, then probably it's another the way you can have a high motivation. So that value issues is really related to the purpose. So if you have a certain purpose of your life in general, that is very broad purpose, and also even your major. I don't know your major, specific major, but if you have a certain purpose in your mind that is very closely related to your life value, then probably it's easier for you to find the motivation to study and to involve in a class or in readings and have a more meaningful the study. And also another thing is that importance of the parents or teachers' expectation. High expectation is important. But remember that not just a purely high expectation, they have to support it. They also have to support provide the support, emotional support. So maybe teachers and the parents and professors say that I have a certain level, this high expectation for you, then probably you feel that, oh, I am very proud of getting this high expectation from my teachers, from professors and parents. And also if they give you a certain compliment and emotional support, then you can have a high energy and you have a reason for you to study. So those are expectations from other people who are very significant in your life. It can be another a set of the motivation to do well. So so far we talked about the factors and variables very important to have the high motivation or to high level of achievement. And this is a process. How can we achieve something? So first you needed to set up the goal and plan to achieve the goals. And then you have to monitor yourself, which area you are poorly perform, and what's your weaknesses area, what is your strong area. So that is your self-monitoring. That is another important thing, the achievement process. If you are ready and you know that set up the goals and plan the things and monitor yourself, also you needed to support from other people and social relations from parents and peers and teachers and mentors. In that way you can have the information and encouragement. That is very important things to achieve high level. So that is related to the social cultural context. Wide open the issues of social cultural context, we see that the achievement level, it's not just individual issues. It can be the group issues in general. So people compare that the level of achievement by nations and by ethnicity. They find that there's some average differences among the group. So SES and also socioeconomic status want to measure the criteria to show that those are differences. But we needed to be very careful. SES and ethnicity, there's some overlap there. So when we interpret that those are comparison, the result of a certain the math achievement or the language achievement, have to be very careful whether this the differences of achievement level because of the SES differences or ethnicity differences. this is, I think, they're very interesting, the research finding. Mothers' belief about the factors responsible for children's math achievement in 3 countries, Japan, Taiwan, and the America. And the Japan Asian mother, they believe that their children's math is determined by mainly by effort. But U.S. mother, the American mother, they believe that the kids' math, the performance is determined by the ability. And as a consequence, because the Asian mother feel that the performance level is determined by effort, they push the kids to study harder. Then they believe that the performance level can be changed depending on the level of the effort. But American mother, because they believe that the ability, that is more difficult to change, so they don't do much to push the kids to study, and maybe because of their perception. So see this, the graph shows that how the culturally have a different expectation for the kids' academic achievement depending on the ethnicity group. So far we talk about to have a motivated adolescents, what kind of factors we needed to think of that. And this is a motivation obstacles. So these obstacles we needed to get away from adolescents' study process and procedure. First, whether the adolescents don't know how to set up the goals, then we have to teach and to help the adolescents to set up the goals, more realistic goal. And then whether they know that how to plan, how to reach the goals, that's another thing. And they know how to monitor their progress toward the goals. And another aspect is a procrastination. Maybe the adolescents, they delayed the things until the point right before the deadlines. Then the anxiety level is too high and their performance is poor. So procrastination, that's another factor we needed to watch. And some adolescents become overwhelmed by anxiety. So that's emotional issues, not just necessarily that's the cognitive capability to do well, but it's more emotional issues. So if the adolescents are too overwhelmed by the anxiety, then we needed to help understand the sources of anxiety and how these adolescents cope with the anxiety. That's the things we needed to pay attention. And finally, try to protect them their self-worth, self-esteem by avoiding the failure. These adolescents are very hesitant to try something. They want to just believe that if I do, and if I make an effort, my performance is going to be great. But my failure at this point is because I don't make any effort. So they kind of make good excuses of the failure as not doing something. So they are afraid that if they do something, then their performance has to be very good. So they are very afraid that if not, then it can be really hurt their self-worth. So they even don't want to try something. In that way, they want to just pretend, I'm going to be a really good achiever, but at this point, I don't make an effort, so I don't want to be responsible, kind of things. So that's another issue. It's a kind of more psychological reason. So this week we cover about the achievement. It's I think that's very related to your work during this semester. Then hope that you can apply some kind of motivational. The concept can be applied to your study pattern or your psychological reason to study, and also reflect upon your motivation process while you are studying and what's your reason for you attend the college. And next week, we are going to continue to think about career development, which is more related to your job and occupation after graduation. So I'm going to wrap up this week. And please remember the online quiz again and also the discussion topics for this the week. Thank you.